Music is the one time when my head isn't filled with briefs and opinions, and all that is put on a shelf, and I just enjoy or am thinking about the performance. In my growing up years, I never saw a woman in a symphony orchestra. And critics like Howard Taubman for the New York Times swore that they could tell the difference between a woman at the piano or a man. But they put him to the test. They blindfolded him, and he got it all mixed up. Which is what led to the drop curtain, because now they audition behind a curtain, and that simple device, the drop curtain, led to an almost overnight change.
So how do we move forward? What's an effective way to start implementing the change that we want? And how do we keep the hope going?
I think you have called yourself, or other people have called you, a belligerent optimist. and I am too, perhaps because I've lived so long. I've lived through some terrible times. I grew up in the shadow of World War II, when we were fighting against odious racism, and yet our own troops, until the very end of the war, were rigidly separated by race. I think out of that horror came the beginning of the end of apartheid in America, because we couldn't maintain law-enforced segregation in face of what we had just seen and opposed in Germany. In my college years, it was the heyday of Senator Joe McCarthy, who saw a communist on every corner. And one of the things that inspired me to become a lawyer is a college professor of mine, professor of constitutional law, pointed out to me that lawyers were standing up for these people who were hauled before the House Un-American Activities Committee or the Senate investigating committees, being quizzed about some group that they belonged to in the 30s, some socialist group at the height of the Depression, and reminding our Congress that we have a First Amendment saying we have a right to think, speak, and write as we believe, and not as a big brother government tells us is the right way to think, speak, and write. Also reminding Congress that we have a Fifth Amendment that protects us against self-incrimination. So that's how I got the idea. It was a pretty nifty thing to be a lawyer. I thought you could get a paid job and then use the rest of your time to make things a little better in your community. Of course, I didn't realize that when I graduated from law school, there were no anti-discrimination laws. So legal employers were totally upfront about saying, we want no lady lawyers in this shop. But it's because I have seen some very bad times and good come out of it. So thinking about the not so good old days and where we are today, certainly not near nirvana, but hugely different. My law school class had 9 women in a class of over 500. Today, most law schools have at least 50% women. I was never taught by a woman teacher in college or in law school. Today, one of my colleagues, Elena Kagan, is formerly the dean of Harvard Law School. So I have seen great changes in my lifetime, and that makes me optimistic, as the quote that you use that Martin Luther King liked so much, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. You spoke about the pendulum, and when it goes too far in one direction, it will move back. I think it will take people who are true patriots on both sides of the aisle to say, enough of this nonsense. We should work together for the good of the people of the United States.
Amen.